Okay, when we are live, you need to tell me because I'm not gonna see it.
We're live, Chloe.
Okay, awesome.
It's how we
Hi,
roll.
everybody.
Well-oiled machine.
Welcome to the Savage Lands Creatures of Savage Lands live stream. I am your community manager, Kittychix. With me in Signal Studios is our game director, Chris Rubyor. And we are here today to give you guys a a virtual tour of the creatures of Savage Lands. So, let's start off with a couple of questions while Chris takes a sip of his coffee. Talon, and I apologize in advance if I butcher your names. I'm so sorry. But Talon has asked from Steam, will different creature types have different AI routines? Especially when we're talking about the dragon.
Yes, since this is a stream all about creatures, this is a great question. Each creature has their own unique AI module, and that module is set up in a way that it's kind of coded and tuned to how players would expect that creature to behave. So you got deer, for example, that they kind of mull around, they graze, they'll stop, they'll perk up. All of our AI have the ability to hear. We have a hearing radius, so each creature is tuned differently. So like, for example, the deer will, when you get close, you can sneak up behind them, or if they see you, if they hear you, they'll perk up, they'll look around, and if they see you, their line of sight code hits you, then they'll actually bound off and run away, which is really cool. And I've mentioned this before, creatures like the wolves, the ones that hunt in the packs, because you might run into wolves that are walking individually, that have been either ousted from their packs, or you'll find just a large pack of different wolves kind of roaming the terrain. Wolves have a pack mentality in that if you were to come running up, let's say you see a pack of wolves walking to the north and you come creeping up behind them, their hearing will kick off, and you may get the one that's in the back that you're the closest to. That'll stop. He'll look around. He'll look for you. He'll look like he'll sniff in the air. He'll listen, and if he sees you, then he'll come charging after you. Now, there are some situations where if you stand still, or you quickly duck behind a tree, or you duck behind a large rock, that wolf won't see you and it won't come after you. But there are cases where if you just come running up on a pack of wolves, and they're going to charge you. So to answer the question, yes, each creature will have its own unique AI module, making those creatures feel very distinct in the world.
All right. So actually, just as a follow-up to that, since we did talk a little bit about the triggers for the creatures, line of sight and stuff like that, are there other ways that mobs might be able to aggro on you, like sound or an equivalent of smell? Will hiding in a bush keep that pack? Well, actually, we talked a little bit about this. Will hiding in a bush keep you from being attacked? Not just from if you haven't been seen, but if you're carrying raw or cooked meat. Is there any concept of sound or smell? Not sound, obviously.
There's not really a concept of smell in the game, but that's not to say as we move through early access, we won't fine-tune those different AI modules. There is a concept of sound, so you can rustle through the grass or you're rustling through bushes. Creatures will hear you. There's obviously a concept of sight. We do have full line of sight. Creatures do have collision avoidance, so if you run inside a house, the creature's not just going to come bounding through the house and attack you from the inside. You can actually take refuge inside various types of shelter and wait until the creatures go away. Basically, they lose interest. Do various tall shrubbery and bushes in the game have, can you hide inside those bushes? Absolutely. We have line of sight blockers inside various tree clumps and bush clumps, the large bush clumps that you see in the world. And the other day I was actually playing around, testing out a section where the Undead Furies spawn, which are these really powerful skeletons, and they kind of patrol this area near the dragon towers. And I went inside a bush, and two Furies, they originally started beelining for me. I just stood in the bush, didn't move, and they walked right on past. And it was actually a really cool experience because normally in a lot of games, creatures have an aggro radius, and when you hit that aggro radius, regardless of if you're in if they can see you or not, they will attack. But in our game, these line of sight blockers that we have on all the different bushes and trees will actually prevent the creatures from seeing you. Now, if I would have moved, those skeletons would have heard me and, of course, would have darted right for me. But so there's a lot of cool ways that you can kind of creep up on various areas without taking damage. Of course, if you're outfitted well enough, you can charge right through and try to engage in physical combat with some of those creatures.
Awesome. All right, let us, while I ask the next question, Logan, you can try and boost his sound just a little bit higher. I can hear you great via our headset, but apparently you're a little low in stream right now.
Logan, we got our technician here, Logan DeMelt, and he's working through all the sound issues right now, guys. So I apologize. Until he gets it worked out, what we can do is answer some questions. We may blow through all the questions, and then we'll go on to showing you the creatures in the game. I do got a pair of new headphones. They're Astros 840s, so they haven't, we've been tuning them all morning, but please bear with us. We apologize. We'll get this sorted out. So, Chloe, let's do our next question.
All right. So, one of the questions that we've got from, I believe it is Helder. Again, I apologize if I've butchered your Steam name. Will we be able to play as elves, dwarves, or any other species other than man right now? Human.
The long-term goal of the product is to allow, we want to have additional types of character customizations to, give players more options. For early access, we're starting off with male character type, which could eventually expand into females, and then from there expand into other types of creatures. The fantasy world that we're building is not necessarily locked into just having humans in the world. We do have a lot of fantastical creatures, so it could lead us into many different directions. But for the initial batch, for the initial character that you have, the idea is that you'll be able to customize your character with a variety of different types of hairstyles, tattoos, and colorize your skin accordingly, and potentially different facial types. Some of these things may come on a little bit later during early access. So, again, it's all, we'll be evolving the system over time.
All right. Excuse me, I apologize. All right, and let's go with, we've got a couple questions about respawning mobs. Do mobs, first of all, respawn? Do they have random localization, like random locations where, hey, this, forested area that's really dense with a lot of trees and it's kind of dark and overhanging, are we more likely to see lots of wolves there, or, something like that?
So all the creatures in the world are procedurally spawned, which means they'll spawn randomly within various areas around the player. It's not like classic MMORPGs where you place a spawner and you know that creature is going to spawn in that location. That's not how it works in our game. We went procedural because it makes the world feel more organic. Slightly more complicated to code, but long term it'll get us the biggest bang for our buck. We do have, though, we can designate areas where certain types of creatures spawn, and these are very large radiuses. So the way our world is broken down, we have some creatures that you'll find globally all across the island, like deer, for example, and deer vary based on elevation, the density of those deers. So you may see, herds down at the lower levels, but as you go up into the higher elevations, you may see only bucks and a few doe every now and then. But you'll also find certain types of creatures like bears are localized only in 2 key areas on the map. We have creatures that I call, they're plague wolves, very vicious creatures, and they're localized. They come out at night, and they're also localized in the center part of the island, which is one of the more dangerous areas. So. In short, the creatures themselves, they do spawn based on region spawners, but it is random where they spawn And we also have rare creatures that are tied to those spawners as well, so you may run into something that you've never seen before.
Awesome. Sorry. We are, just to let everybody know, we are aware of the echo. We're going to try and solve that as we keep going, but I'm glad to hear that the sound is much better. So, yes.
Sorry about that, guys. We do have top men on this, and you know, to as everybody to endure, Chloe will be giving away alpha keys.
Yes.
We'll be giving away, even though we won't be giving away during the stream. She'll take down your information, and then when we go live with our alpha, you'll be sure to be one of the first people to get a key and play in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we move into the explanation of the fantastic looking creature that we have on our stream. And while you do that, I'm going to get ready for our first key giveaway.
Sure. So, in our game, our world is much darker than what, it's it has that Skyrim vibe to it, Game of Thrones vibe. And, to keep with that overall theme, a lot of the creatures, even though they have, you look at this bear, for example, it has that familiar look, but we've also made some dramatic changes to its overall physique. So, hold on, I gotta take the mouse here from the technician. All right, and we are showing this off in Unity, guys. So this is actually standard Unity. I'm using another machine for streaming. Normally the base program that we use is Unity Pro. So this bear, for example, you can see that we put this headpiece on him, this kind of bone piece, if you will, that makes the bear feel much more menacing. You can see that his claws have been exaggerated, so very powerful creature. It also stands about 10 feet, if not taller than the players. So these guys are, they're very unique. They're also incredibly aggressive. We added some uniqueness to their eyes. So at night, as they're walking through the world, you'll see the eyes glow. So they have this emissive texture to them. And what you'll find with all the creatures in the game is that they have this unique look to them. And also, I want to point out that this is a first pass. These creatures are creatures that we created, DNA and Signal have created from scratch, that we put into the game. And we plan to continually iterate on these creatures and make them look more and more distinct as we move through our early access phase. So yeah, these guys, we have you'll see different colors of these bears. We got brown, black, some that are slightly patchy, so they all vary. So now as a player, imagine you actually take one of these down, and you can actually get this bone piece, and you could use that bone piece to potentially craft, let's say, a headpiece that you could put on, that you can wear. So, which is pretty cool, because I want to mention that all the creatures in the game have their own drops. So it's not like you're going to go out and kill a skeleton and get some gold and some cloth shreds. The skeletons drop, they have their own loot table, and they drop their own things. So that means that you're going to have to hunt down these creatures and to get all the necessary components to craft a variety of different items in the game. But yeah, so this is our bear, very unique. Let me load up some animations here. Also, the Unity setup is not my normal ideal Unity. I'm actually on a huge 32-inch screen here, so with running on a smaller second screen, but I want to make sure, so it's not, if I'm fumbling around, I apologize. All right, so let's see, we'll do this attack bite. Let me bring a guy in. All right, there we go. So we're going to show off some of the animations. Let me make sure it's not playing too fast. You're not going to hear sound. No, we're doing animations. Yeah, which I often do. So you're not seeing any animation blending that's going on. These are basically raw animations of the characters as we So, but when you see them in a game, when you see them in game, there are actually a lot of animation blending that goes on, so everything looks much more fluid and organic. So we're actually sharing with you kind of the raw look at these creatures. I'll do a run.
Me now.
One
moment, please, guys.
Should be better now. Technician just jumped in.
Can you hear me now? Smile and nod in the chat if you can hear me now. Yay for the 15-second delay. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So what I was just saying is what you're not hearing is, of course, us making our own sounds as we code the game. And while we're getting ready for streams, Chris is always singing and I'm always dancing, so you miss a couple of things, you know, about how games get made. What can we say? We enjoy our jobs.
Yeah, making games is a ton of fun, but it's also a lot of work. So yeah, you can see our creatures. You know, this is just an example of one bear. At launch, you will have close to 10 to 12 different enemy types, and those enemy types will be broken up into, you know, they'll have their own, a lot of them will be distinct, so you just won't see one type of deer running around the world or one type of bear. So, you know, some of the wolves that you'll see in the game are scaled differently to give them a unique look. So the alphas of the pack are a bit more distinct than, say, the betas. But nonetheless, you know, we got some really cool stuff that we have planned. And over time, because our world is so huge, we're going to be adding more creatures to the world. So let me go, you know, that's an example of one of our bears. I'm going to move over, I'm going to show you guys a plague wolf.
All right, well, and while you're opening that up, I'm going to run a giveaway. So just to remind you guys, what you are basically trying to win here is a chance to take part in our alpha. Now, we are not going to be giving you an actual alpha key today. We are not quite ready to turn on the alpha just yet. But what we're going to do is, whomever wins, I will take your contact information. You can just message it to me straight at the Signal Studios account, and then I will send you an email, and we will make sure that we have all your contact information for when we are ready to turn that alpha live, and you will be among one of the very first people who actually gets their hands on this game and can help us start testing all the bugs that, you know, we hope we have tracked down, but I'm sure there's going to be a few that slide through the cracks. So let me just run this. All right, so the question is, what was the first recipe that Chris actually managed to build last week on the stream?
Well, that's a good question. I don't even remember.
I know, I had to go look it up.
All right.
There's a very specific name, and Matt has got it. Congratulations, Matt Wetnuts. That was awesome. Chicken soup. You know, Tony Shark, that would actually have been a fantastic food recipe, but I don't think we have chickens in Savage Lands, do we? Do we have chickens? I haven't seen chickens on the list. Oh, have I lost the stream?
Creatures in the game right now. But over time, again, you know, we're going to be adding a variety of different fauna that players will see throughout the world. All right. All right, let's bring up another creature here. What we have on screen here, this is one of our Hillstalkers. This is one of our alphas, actually. Leader lead a lot of the packs. These guys are really cool, very vicious. Let me load up some animations for you. All right, animations. They share some animations. Wow. Hold on. Oh. I always love going through shared animations. Actually, I'm just going to use the Hillstalker. This is really cool since it shares the animations. Much easier to show this guy. So definitely a lot of variety in how the creatures you see in this world. This guy is pretty vicious. Definitely scaled differently than the other wolves that you'll see in the game. Very different texture. Pass, you can see, looks much more, just very gritty, savage kind of look. You don't want to mess with these guys. They have multiple attacks. One attack type actually causes the player to bleed. The other attack type he has will inflict rabies on him, in addition to doing massive amounts of damage. So these guys are pretty brutal. They come out at night, and they also roam the center part of the island. And there's kind of a mystery to the center part of the island. There's a lot of rooms that players will find and explore up there. But there's also a lot more. There's different types of creatures that are more powerful than you would normally encounter in some of the lower regions of the island. And in a lot of ways, even though thematically speaking, the game has a Game of Thrones, Skyrim feel. Some of the stuff that goes on the island, it's this mystery. It's kind of like Lost in a lot of ways. You as a player washing up on shore, trying to figure out what's going on in this world while trying to survive. It's pretty epic. So let's see, we've got his run. When wolves are chasing you, and mind you, I'm running at half the speed. These guys, they're pretty. They'll hunt you down. You're not going to get away from these guys. So the best thing to do if you're in an area that might have a shelter or a house, preferably stone, go inside, close the door. I hope you have some cooked meat or some wild nuts or some apples or something, and just kind of relax until these guys lose interest and go and find something else to do. Of course, if you're equipped, you can always try to take these guys on. They drop, they have some really unique drops that can be used to forge some various types of armor, more specifically plate armor, that'll benefit the player later on in the game. They also have a particular scale that will drop with them that you'll be able to apply to your armor that has a heat component, so it actually increases the amount of heat, or reduces the amount of heat that your player loses while he's out in this frigid, cold world.
So you actually mentioned off stream, and I'm not sure if I heard it when you were talking about the bear, but you mentioned that the bear's faceplate might be part of the loot system as well.
Yeah. So we look at when we look at the creatures, we try to determine, okay, what makes sense for that particular creature in terms of its drops. And for example, the bear, you can take its claw. You can also get a bear pelt, in addition to the mask, or basically the bone mask that it has. Potentially get that and use that in a recipe as well, in different types of armor. So yes, it is very possible. Now, not to say that these all drop at the same time. That mask itself is kind of a rare drop. So if you get it, and you have some other components that you've acquired, say from some of the skeletons and these plague wolves, you'll be able to combine and potentially create something really cool.
All right, so I think you briefly mentioned this, but I want to call attention to it because Ogre 1, Ogre 2 has asked this actually a couple of weeks now. At the moment, how many different mobs are there? And can we go a little bit into whether there will be passive mobs?
For alpha and early access launch, we'll have close to 10 different types of creatures with a bunch of creature types, and then we have, if you were to make we break those down into variants, and these variants have, different, they may be the same plague wolf, but it's slightly different in its attack or its size, and potentially drop something different. So that gives us additional variety that we can add in the world. But base creatures, we're going to have 10, and the idea is every couple of weeks, maybe a month, depending on how fast we can crank them out, add new creatures to add brand new creatures to the world. We do have passive creatures, so creatures like deer. We have goats. We have rams that you'll be able to encounter in the world that you can kill to get meat. There are also boar, but the boar are slightly more aggressive. So you want to be careful of those guys. And then we have wolves. We have bears that you'll be able to take down. In addition to some of the more unique creatures, such as our forest giants. We have a dragon that you'll be able to team up with your friends and take down, or team up with other players and form a truce for the short term and take down those creatures. In addition to, we have a bunch of other creatures that we have on the plate post-launch that we got to get in. So 10 different types of creatures. Yes, we have passive creatures, and yes, we have a variety of aggressive creatures in the game as well.
Awesome. Now, there's a question that is being asked in chat from Macazar. Considering survival games have a strong PvP inclination, are there any plans to prevent players from being able to, say, kite or train monsters over to someone else's base, or otherwise take advantage of monster AI to do damage to other players?
That's a great question. There is no sense of, if we were to think about it from an MMORPG point of view, which is hate. Characters can build up hate on a particular creature and pull that creature off another player. When a creature right now has locked sights onto a player, it will track that player down to all ends of the earth. And the only way to get rid of, to lose that, basically that aggro, is to take refuge and set yourself up so you can't be attacked, or take on that creature head on. Now, that doesn't mean you can't run the creature to a certain point, but most of the creatures are faster than the player, which means that you can try to run, but that creature is going to attack you during, while you're trying to flee, and you're going to take a lot of heavy damage in the process. But that doesn't mean that you could run across a player in the world and he can help you kill the creature. If you're playing on a hostile server, that means that at that point, when the creature's dead, you'll have to look at your friend and say, do you want to loot it, or shall I loot it? Or, of course, you can kill the other player, loot it, and then run. On friendly co-op servers, players will then be able to decide, who's going to loot it. And post-launch, we'll come up with better systems that allow players to share stuff that they find in the world.
Awesome. Now, this has been asked probably in chat. It actually was asked in chat last week. It's been asked this week. It's been asked on Steam. It's been asked on Facebook. What about random events? So we know that mobs spawn randomly and that they're procedurally generated. Say you're in a town settlement with a bunch of your friends. Is it more likely that, an army of skeletons will just come marching into your town and try and wreak havoc? And in conjunction with that, I'm throwing two questions at you once again. Can mobs and creatures in general damage structures? So can they actually smash down a house?
The end goal is yes. We want some of the larger creatures. For example, this Titan that you see on the screen right now. We want that I just kind of clicked away. Hold on one second. I'm going to put him into an idle state. It's much better when you can look at him. This guy is actually like 25 feet tall. He's huge. So long-term, through early access, we want to be able to add in destroyable structures. So this guy is chasing you down. You run inside a wooden house. He'll bash his way through the house. You run into a more fortified stone structure, maybe not so much. Same thing with the dragon. If the dragon, you get into its sights, you get aggro and it starts to hunt you down. It'll burn the forest, it'll burn down trees, it'll burn down houses to get at you. So that is our long-term goal, to have that kind of destruction element built into the world.
Awesome. I know that will make several individuals really, really happy to hear that. And it sounds pretty badass.
And that's why we want you guys to be there with us through alpha and early access, so you can be part of that evolutionary process. as well as commit your feedback onto our forums and participate into our Trello boards that we'll have active so that you guys can have a voice and help us build this game and help make an awesome experience for years to come. So definitely, if you're not on the Steam boards, head over to the Savage Land Steam boards and make sure you post up there. I try to post every morning when I get in to answer questions. Chloe and another one of our community managers, Oxhorn, is always there. So please post up your questions. We want to build this game up. We want it to be great. And the one way we're going to do that is by having you, the fans and the players, help us make this experience.
All right, so we have a couple more questions. We've only got about 4 left. So how many more creatures do you want to show off today?
I'll show off one of the skeletons. One more. What time is it? Okay, well, yeah, we got time for one more.
All right. One of the things that we did kind of touch on is that, one of the things that we haven't touched on, words, English, in the right order, please, is when you're in this world, you're literally in another world. It is just how things work. You're just wandering around and exploring. So does that mean that there's going to be any kind of consideration given to the player when you're meeting enemy types? Or is it possible, will they scale in difficulty? Or is it possible that you are just going to run into a situation that you cannot get out of?
It is very possible to get into a situation where you can't get out of. If you're running through the forest, you're gonna.
And please, when you are running through the forest, make that crazy random noise because that will be awesome.
And you will get the attention of other wolves, and other wolves will say, "Hey, look, there's fresh meat," and you could have a huge train before you know it attacking you. So you want to be very smart how you move through the world. Like I mentioned earlier on, move through the bushes. Be very quiet when you're walking through the world. If you see creatures off in the distance, please, kind of assess. Like deer, for example, you don't have to worry about it, but they are very fast, especially if you're trying to hunt them for food. But when you got a guy like this on the screen, this is what I call an undead fury. These guys, they mean business, and we have a variety of different types of furies with different weapons. That if you kill that particular fury with that weapon, you'll actually get that weapon. But these guys, they're very powerful and very potent. And you'll find these guys up near around the dragon's roosts, these giant towers that are situated on the map that the dragon will actually stop, land, and idle on and survey the area. And these guys can also be found as rare spawns, named rare spawns, that walk through the world, and they can also be found in various rooms that are scattered throughout the land. But these guys, these are really nasty. But yes, to answer the original question, you can get yourself in a situation that you can't get yourself out of. It is very possible. But that's the type of brutal, gritty survival experience we wanted to build for Savage Lands. It wasn't just, let's just take in what we know from MMOs or let's take in what we know from RPGs. No, let's take what people really and gamers really love about survival games, put it into this really cool, gritty fantasy world, and offer that experience that they're kind of familiar with, but at the same time offer them something new. So I don't want to make, and I would say the team, we don't want to make this game where it just, hey, I got aggro, I'll just feign death, and the guy runs away. No, we don't. We want, it's a very brutal experience. So that's what we set out to build. Over time, that doesn't mean things can't be tuned. And again, we'll look to the community to help us tune. But that is our vision for the game as it stands today.
Awesome. That sounds pretty darn impressive to me, and I think I can say for just about everybody in the chat that it sounds pretty intriguing as well.
So let me ask the guys out there, everybody's in the stream right now. So one of the things that we're doing is, I haven't done yet, is break apart or put this particular armor set into the drop table of these skeletons. Would you guys want to see it? Would you want to get this armor? Let me know, because it'll take some time to break apart. But we can get it in there for late alpha, early access. So let me know what the consensus is, Chloe.
I will. I will definitely. In fact, what I'll do is on Steam, because that is absolutely where we are trying to focus all of our feedback. I will put up a post directly about that as soon as we're done, so we can hear everybody's thoughts on it.
Cool. Well, let's do one more question, and then we'll plan for something next week.
All right, sounds good. So the last one is something that I actually hadn't thought about, but it's kind of an interesting question. Lastly, so this is from, let me see what the name is, Boomsty? Boomsticks? Boomsticks. I think it's, I'm so sorry again, I'm mispronouncing Steam names left, right, and center here. The question is, lastly, you start out at the coast. It is a survival game, so will fishing be a thing? Could there be other things in the water too? Things you wouldn't want jumping out at you from the water or dragging you down into it? Will swimming and underwater exploration be a thing?
So, over time, yes. I want fishing. Fishing is one of the first things I would like to add right after the game goes early access. Right now, we got a bunch of other things in the pipeline. Bows being one, being able to do archery is one of them, being able to fletch arrows, and so that's a huge thing that I want to have in the game. So fishing will take a back seat until right after launch, and then we'll get fishing in. So yes, I want fishing. I also want to have creatures in the water that if you go out there, you go at your own risk. The water's also freezing cold, so the deeper you go, the more your cold meter will tick down, and ultimately you'll go into hypothermia and start taking damage. So that gives us an opportunity to potentially create unique gear that you can wear that'll protect you from the frigid ice water. So you can go out and potentially kill some of these creatures that might lurk out in the depths. But again, that's stuff that will probably come on post or a little bit sometime after we launch the game. Early access, but it's definitely on our roadmap to get in. I can do one more question, Chloe. Chloe?
All right. So I have lost the ability to hear Chris right now, but I can tell from the stream that he's not talking anymore.
Oh, no, that's good. We just had some technical difficulties there. Our technician's trying to optimize the stream and sound, and he's
okay.
Accidental click. He's done a great job.
All right. It's all good. It happened.
One more question, and then we can plan for next week.
Matt, you'll get your reply after the stream. I can't quadruple task while I'm doing this, so absolutely. One more question. Actually, I'm going to take Reaver's question, and I think I already know the answer, but death is finite and can come quick. Can you become undead?
You can respawn. There is no sense of undead if we were to think of like World of Warcraft. When you die in Savage Lands, you'll leave a corpse in the world. This is kind of like old school Ultima Daisy in some ways, where your corpse, you die. If you have a house built or a shelter built, you'll respawn back at your house. If not, then you're going to respawn somewhere on the beach. So, as you get to learn the island, it's very important that when you die, you want to die in a location geographically that you'll remember. And your corpse is not going to rot right away, so you'll be able to get back to your corpse. But if somebody comes across your corpse, they will be able to loot it. Of course, that will depend on what type of server you're playing on, but initially, you die, you'll have to go back to your corpse and loot your corpse. That's actually old school EverQuest as well, thinking about it.
It is kind of.
All right. You lose experience in old school EverQuest, which is a pain in the butt, but all good.
And it has actually come up a couple of times in chat today, so I'm going to just answer it here because we did talk about it last week. And that's that the question was, is there a XP or a skill-based system that we have planned for the game? And the answer to that is no, there is not presently. What we're planning to do instead is the armor that you build, that you craft, there's different types, and as you craft different types of armor, more, you start with the fur armor, and you move to, or I guess technically you start with fabric scraps, then you actually put on armor, and that's how you are kind of leveling up your character.
Yeah, so progression comes in the form of the gear that you've acquired and crafted, and the shelter that you've built. So it's kind of like real life in some ways, that as you acquire more stuff, you have the ability to do more things and explore the world. Skill system, people have asked about the progression system, skill system. I'm not sure if it fits at this time, but as we move through early access, it could very well be something that we add based on community, what the community desires. But again, does it make sense right now? I can say no, it doesn't really make sense based on how we've designed the gear and crafting and all those other elements of the game. But again, early access, I like early access because it's the great unknown, because we're including the community and many things can change.
Yep, and again, last week, one of the things that we did talk about is once we've actually got the alpha live, we have what is known as a Trello board. And a Trello board allows you guys, as our community, kind of to do two things. One, it's kind of a roadmap for what we're working on right now, the various stages of development, et cetera, what's kind of down the pipeline, but we're also going to be allowing you guys to vote on features that you might want to see. You can suggest features, and if it gets a lot of really positive feedback, we can then, as the development team, sit down and look at how we can implement that idea, if we're taking the idea directly and dropping it in the game, those kinds of things. So we aren't posting that publicly just yet because we want to make sure that the alpha itself is off to a great start. And then once we're into that process, we can turn that on publicly and let you guys have at it. So we're definitely going to be taking a lot of your feedback. We just need to get certain things finished first. Okay, Chris, I am ready with my last code, alpha code giveaway for this stream.
Awesome.
If you are ready. So this one is going to be done a little bit differently, guys. It's going to be first to enter a hashtag. The hashtag is going to be right there in the question. So basically, you just you copy the thing, and the first person to hit copy paste is the winner. If you've already won either this week or last week, please, as much as we love you wanting to win a second code, please let someone else win. Okay? So here we go. All right, starting the giveaway now. Do 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 do. Okay, I'm done. That's my little. I'm waiting for a code to give away. Oh. No, Styra! Alright, congratulations. High skilled! I am not reading that full thing. It's okay, don't worry, there will be lots of other chances to get this. We are absolutely going to be giving away more codes as we continue with these streams. We do have we do have a stream scheduled for just about every single week, both while we go into Alpha and then all the way through Alpha, where you can check in. We're going to be doing gameplay videos that sort of dive really deep into a particular concept or question that you might have. We have some planned for just general stuff, and then more things like, here's how you build X, like maybe a campfire, when you really need to pay attention to the fact that you need stone, not wood. Hey, Chris?
That's right.
Okay. On that note, guys, thank you so much for coming and checking out our stream today. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for bearing with us while we had a couple of audio issues. We really appreciate you checking us out. Winners from the Alpha Code giveaways, please message me and I will get in touch with you. Like I said, you won't get your code right away, but as soon as the alpha goes live, we will be sending those out to you. And until then, find us on Steam, find us on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Giving away all the goodies for next stream.